All right, good afternoon and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube. We're learning today Table and Abled Shulchan Aruch Yomi Hilchos Kriya Shema Simonai and Dalit number 74. Talks about Shlo Levarach Shevarav Romas Erva. You're not allowed to make brachas. It's interesting it says brachas. Really, the Gemara says Kriya Shema. You're not supposed to say Kriya Shema. When you're Avarav, really, we'll see it's really only your lave, your heart sees the erva, meaning basically there's no covering between your heart and your genitals. So Aleph, Hayashin Aram Vitaliso. Let's say you're sleeping naked in your talus and your blanket. Taliso. I don't know. You use a talus to go as your blanket. No one uses a talus as your blanket. But Sarach Lachotz Batalis Alibo Az Yikra. You have to cover between your talus and your heart. And then you can say Kriya Shema. Hashem Delibero Es Erba Asher. This is a Gemara. The Gemara says you can't say Kriya Shema when your heart, right? Even if you're wearing a scarf or you're wearing something on your shoulders, if there's no clothing between, even if you're wearing a shirt, right? The shirt is not tucked into under your chest or pressed against your stomach, so then it's called liboros erva, and it's aser. Hagav hu adinim liboros erva chavero aser. The same thing if your heart sees someone else's erva. Let's say you're covered from waist down, but your heart is opposite someone else's erva. So then that's also us. So this is the Torah brings. This is not in the Gemara. The reason the Shulchan Aruch says liboros erva is a problem is because when you're making a bracha, your eyes, right? Lo yira b'chayavas davar. You can't lo yira b'chayavas dibor kriya shema. When you're saying kriya shema, you shouldn't see erva. You shouldn't see nakedness, both man's nakedness and a woman's nakedness. So you can't see that while you're saying kriya shema. So the lave, this is what the Mishnah Berurah says. The lave also could see. It says v'libi ra harbe chachma. He says your heart can see a lot of wisdom. So, so your heart is like seeing. If there's nothing interfering between your heart and your genitals, so then that's a problem because your heart is seeing erva. Davar. This is not found in the Gemara. This reason it says. So I'm going to explain Ian to lean on what maybe the reason is. Beis harochetz arom b'mayim stulim roza lishtos. Let's say you're in a swimming pool and you're naked in the swimming pool, a private swimming pool, go naked. Of course, it's private. Why would you wear a bathing suit? There's no one there. Who wears a bathing suit? You don't wear a bathing suit with other people there. There's no other people. Of course, go naked in the water. Rotza lishtos. You want to drink. Right? We're talking about now where his whole body, up until his neck, is submerged in the water. So you should have to put a cloth between your heart and the erva shivarich when you make a bracha. Again, because we're assuming Chazal or the Mishnah Berurah, the post can assume that whenever it says Kriyat Shema in the Gemara, it's referring to all Divrei Torah, learning, making brachos, davening, all those things. When you invoke Shem Hashem or you learn Torah, those are also included in Kriya Shema. I don't know if that's included. The Gemara says Kriya Shema for a reason. It's not just an example. Otherwise, it would have said all Divrei Kedusha. It doesn't say all Divrei Kedusha. I don't like to include all Divrei Kedusha, just like I said at the beginning of Hilchos Nilas Yadayim, to say all Divrei Kedusha are included in Kriya Shema doesn't necessarily make sense. There's a reason that the Gemara picked out Kriya Shema. Dafka Beged, Yadayim lo havi kisoy. It has to be specifically with a garment of al yadayim, putting your hands, right? You're submerging the water to your neck to put your hands underneath. That doesn't count. Hagav hu adinim machas harosho biyadav lemikri kisei harosh. The same thing goes if you cover your head with your hands. It's not considered covering your head, right? We said for certain halacha, you're not supposed to walk dalat amos, right, without covering of your head. That's maybe a meal of Chasidus. And come on, Simon Sadi Aleph, where he talks about when you make a bracha, medina, mahalacha, you have to have a covering on your head. Your hand doesn't count. Let's say you were in dirty water. you go on a mudslide, you go to a place where you go hiking and the water's dirty, um, and so therefore, even if your whole body's submerged in the water, you can say Kriya Shema because your heart can't see the erva, literally can't see it. It's dirty water. Who was talking unless it's a bad smell? And there's a different reason. You're not supposed to make brachas. Again, there's halacha later on when it's a bad smell. Um, However, let's say he's in the pool and it's waist high, the water. So his lave is separated from his erva through the water. Technically, the Rambam says it's mutter in that case because the water acts as a barrier between your heart and your erva. Let's say even if you're completely submerged in the water up to your neck, let's say, so your libo technically is seeing the erva if it's clear water. If you take your arms and you hug yourself, right? So by hugging yourself, so therefore we judge that as hafsaka. We judge that as a barrier, even though technically you're a dayim, right? We said a hand, putting your hand underneath your heart doesn't count. When you completely hug yourself, that's considered to be not something people normally do, and it's considered to be a hefsek. To me, I don't understand this because if your head, what does it matter if you have two hands hugging you or one hand? If you hold, it's a hefsek, it's a hefsek. If you hold not a hefsek, not a hefsek. That's why I have completely rearranged the reasons in this halacha. Dalad yesh misha omer shanoshim yichol sevarach l'spalach shein levushos hachalak ava pisha enan mafsikos lamata mehalev. Some say that a woman could make brachas and daven when they're wearing a shirt. Let's say they're wearing a shirt, right? We said also that's a problem. If you're wearing a loose-fitted shirt, so your libo roas erba is nothing blocking. A woman don't have this problem. Even if women are wearing a blouse, a loose-fitted blouse, and they're not covered, they're not wearing underwear, they don't have this problem of libo roas erba. Agav, mehina rumo sarach shtei erva shalen tulas bakarka, o sheyoshvos al shar davar the az ein libo roas erva shalen masha ein came by ish. We were talking about when they were standing. So besides the fact that there's no problem for them, however, there is a problem if they're standing because they're naked. And to stand naked, there could be people that pass by. So technically, it's not okay to stand like that for a woman. She's doing it in public, at least. So I think in her bedroom she could do it, but if she wants to be in public, I don't know if this makes sense, but if she wants to sit down, right, and she's not wearing underwear, that's okay. Because when women sit down, their nakedness, their vulva is really covered by whatever they're sitting on. If they're sitting on the ground or they're sitting on a chair, let's say, it's covered. Most women, so therefore, it's considered covered. So therefore, no one sees it in that case. I mean, I think if men pass by, it would be pretty arousing for most men, but technically there's no problem there. And the problem of Libra Serva doesn't apply to women because the way it is, the heart is more out than the actual erva, the vulva, so therefore directly downward, it doesn't meet the erva. So there's never Libra Serva by woman. That's basically the halacha. Hey, Shari Vara of Rowan as the erva mutter. The rest of his avarim, right? Let's say your hand is uncovered. As long as there's a hefsek mutter, as long as there's a hefsek leave roas erva, even if your other parts of your body are uncovered, that's okay. Ever if your hand or even your foot is touching your erva, we're going to talk about your thigh, right? Sometimes you're not wearing underwear in a bathing suit or something like that, so your penis is touching your thigh, right? Also, likros kriyashma. That's the Shulchan Aruch passes. You can't read kriyashma in that case. Only spala or even daven. You have to put something there so your private parts, your genitals, shouldn't rest on your thigh, because the reason being they give is because that brings you to arousal and you're not going to be able to say Kriya Shema in a situation like that. Vav, Haiset aliso chagura al masnab lechasoso mimasav al mata alfish mimasav al malahu aru mutter likros Kriya Shema aval ispal asar shechas al libo. He had a beged. He was wearing clothing around his waist. He even wear a belt, let's say, right? even though he's covered, even though he's not covered, his chest is bare, right? But he's wearing a belt. That's all you gotta do. You can walk around naked, just wear a belt. You have no problem saying Kriya Shema. But when it comes, let's look in the mirror. If you look in the mirror, then you probably see the erva, the yerba cover davar. You can't look at that. But if you have a belt there and you're in a room without a mirror, so technically you could say Kriya Shema, but you can't daven. You can't say Shemona Esrei because Shemona Esrei you have to imagine that you're standing in front of a king, and most people would not go in front of a king with their chest bare. I was listening to Tom Brady. He said that he used to be on New England Patriots. Uh, New England's a cold place. Boston's a cold place. So even during the summer, I guess it's not so hot. But in Tampa Bay, where even during the winter it's nice weather, where he is now, by the Buccaneers, he says that's the minhag, that's the custom. Everyone walks around bare chested, the men at least. I don't think the women, maybe the women walk around in bikinis. I don't know, but the men walk around with with no shirt on. That's what I said. That's more often than not. That's you can be going to the store, you can be sitting down for coffee with somebody, and they're not wearing any clothes. So just tell those people. Tom Brady should tell them. Mention them. If you convert to Judaism and want to daven master, you can't do that. You have to put on a shirt. So that should be. If Tom Brady ever hears this shir, just remember in Tampa Bay, and you have a Jewish friend, tell him he's got to put on a shirt. If he wants to daven for Kriya Shema, he's okay. So. Anyway, that's included in today's share. Stay tuned for Ian to lean on, where we talk really what is going on. Libo Roas, Erva. Does it really mean the problem over here is that your heart is seeing the Erva? Where as soon as say only Kriya Shema, why is we extending it to all brachos and Divrei Torah? For more on that, stay tuned for Ian to lean on coming up next.